Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for attending our session here. I'm Susan McCutcheon. I'm Regional Sales Manager with PlanGrid based in Toronto. My background is technology for over 30 years, and starting my career way back with IBM, and then I worked for a company called PeopleSoft and Workday after that, so working with ERP applications, financials, and HR. Took a different turn. And in the last almost 2 years, I've been with PlanGrid, starting our sales organization here in Canada. Really happy to be here today. This is our third CanBIM session that we've attended. Yay, CanBIM. Really enjoying it. Based on the conversations that we took in Calgary, we're actually basing our conversation today largely on that. When I was there, PlanGrid is a mobile app designed specifically for collaboration with the field. So contractors, subcontractors, architects, even owners are using PlanGrid. But I know the conversation in Calgary was like, 2D versus 3D. Do you even need 2D? What is the role of 2D versus 3D? So we're going to discuss this today. We're going to talk about data, big data. Big data is being captured in BIM systems, as you're very well aware, and then, we're a field collaboration tool. We're capturing data like no one else is. Now, a bit of background on our company really fast before I introduce my colleagues here. Our company started in 2011, two civil engineers, two technology, actually one's a rocket scientist from Pixar. And so taking that technology, rendering plans to a mobile device really fast is the first thing we did. And the reason being is our CEO, Tracy Young, was working on a large hospital build in LA. And she had trouble. Two things. One is they kept getting the plans wrong for the operating room. Way over budget, way over schedule, and she's about 100 pounds wet. They gave her a big shopping cart to take the plans around with. Same year, Steve Jobs introduced the iPad, and she's like, I don't understand, why aren't we putting plans on a mobile device? That's how we started. Today, we're the largest single repository plans in the world, 80 million plans in our cloud, secured cloud, being used on projects, Parliament, D&D, used on BMO Field, used Peel Regional Memorial Hospital, Tour de Moriel, who won an award last night. We're used on those projects by subtrades and contractors alike. So we're really excited to present today. We see a tremendous opportunity in collaborating with you guys to learn more about your needs from a BIM perspective, but sharing with you our success in the field. So today I have my colleague with me, Josh Progar, who came in from Philadelphia. Josh has been with PlanGrid, I think, 3 years maybe? 6 years ahead of that, he was 6 years in the field as a construction manager working on large projects, and 2 years in design. Brings a great depth of knowledge to the industry and can relate to your positions. And then we actually have a PlanGrid customer today. We have Jim Blair with us. Jim is with Collaborative Structures based in Cambridge. He's using PlanGrid in all of his new projects. He's going to talk a lot about Conestoga College as well. So thanks for having us. I'm going to pass this over to Josh and take it from here. Thanks.
Hi everybody. Good afternoon. As Susan introduced, my name is Josh. I am a customer advocate at PlanGrid based out of Philadelphia. Really honored to be here with you guys today. We only have about a half hour, so we're going to do a really high-level overview of the state of the industry today, the impact of big data in the industry, and how the 3D environment that you guys are well aware of in BIM and the 2D environment, a little bit of what's going on in the field can collaborate with one another and use that data in an efficient way that you can transfer it from design to construction into operations so everyone on the job site always has access to the most current information. So we can go ahead and, I guess, do I got a clicker here?
Green button.
Green button, all right. All right, so let's just take a quick look at the industry and kind of where we are today, and this will be a little bit of a review for some of you. But construction is one of the least digitized industries in the world. If you're trying to find us on the chart there, this is a McKinsey Global Institute study that was done just a few years ago. We are second from the bottom. We are just above agriculture and hunting. Yeah. And so what we're here talking about today is how we can really ramp up our technologies. I know there's a lot of really bright people in the room that are into the 3D software, but how can we really start to rise up this list? And there are a lot of key areas of investment. There is digital tools for workers, both in the office and in the field, and then of course the automation of our business practices using some of the technologies that I'm sure you've seen over in the exhibit hall, as well as what you're using already today. And I'm sure a lot of you have also seen this graphic as well. Productivity, this is not a new concept for the construction industry. If you look back 50, 60 years into 1964, other industries have benefited from the automation of their processes, from computerization, and construction is actually kind of flatlined. And we're actually just below the mark. We're at about a 3% decrease, but as you can see, since 2010, we're starting to rise up again, so we are on the upswing. And that's what we want to talk about here today is we're collecting data like never before. A study recently done by IBM concluded that 90% of the world's data has been collected in just the last 2 years. So we've got all this data coming into the industry. How can we categorize it? How can we effectively manage it? Not have an analysis by paralysis by analysis, so to speak, and be able to use that throughout the office, the field, owners, designers and contractors alike. So, as I said, we don't have a lot of time. We're not going to do a deep dive today, but we do just want to kind of do a brief overview of everything that comes with the big data discussion in the industry. Yeah, and things are changing. So, every year brings more technology into construction. Now, a lot of you in the room today are probably already using or exploring these different technologies. We hear drones buzzing above our job sites today, taking 3D models. We've got laser scanning going on. We've even got robotics on the job site in some cases. And more you're seeing superintendents on the job site carrying their smartphones, carrying their mobile tablets. And then, of course, there's the building information modeling industry, which we're well aware of and we see tons of value in as well. So as this technology is flooding into our industry with this influx, how do we manage it? What are our opportunities and what are our threats with these different types of systems? So when we look at more technology, as I said earlier, it also means more data. And now with the technologies that are out there today, it's possible to track locations, quantities, the use and counts of equipment, and know where they're at on the job site at all times. How many of you guys are wearing like an Apple Watch or a smartwatch? If you like it or not, you can be tracked on a job site now. There's technology that's out there. And we can digitally document all of our issues, all of our tasks. We have insight into jobs like never before. We can see every time anything is done in a drawing set. And with the 3D, the BIM side, we also have rich data or data-rich environments that we can collect a lot of information from the design side as well as into the operations phase of the project. And as I mentioned, we've got sensors that can be put on job sites to track movement of equipment, personnel, and materials to make sure that we're working a little bit more efficiently on our jobs. And so let's talk a little bit about the opportunities and then also the threats. Unfortunately, formatting here, the threats fell off the page, but we'll go over them as well. So opportunities, we can make better, quicker decisions when we have data at our fingertips. Instead of being reactive, we can be proactive. It's just about making sure we're getting the right information at the right time. We can improve communication across all parties. Whether you're back in the office, you're across the country from a job, you're able to get information instantly and you're able to communicate effectively with all the different parties aligned, which is huge gains for the industry. This is an important one. You have an accurate history of the project's construction. Now, I know this has been something that the gentlemen and ladies that are in attendance today have been doing for years back in the office, but now we're able to collect information in real time from the job site, and we're able to have insight both proactively into the future and also reactively into the past, like never before, to have a bunch of data that we can use for analytics, to learn lessons and get better on future projects, which is shown with better forecasting, and of course then better retrospective analysis. So what are the threats here? I'm sure a lot of you have seen this influx of technology. Where can we kind of get stuck with this? So with data comes organization. You need to be organized, or it can be paralysis by analysis. It's also more complex tools. Whether you're using a business intelligence tool or some other technology, this influx of technology, you have to have a system that can categorize it and keep it straight for you. And so we do want to make sure that we recognize the threats, but also look at the bright future and the opportunity that this rich data environment brings to our design teams as well as our contractors. Oh, and there are the threats, as well as just drowning in the data themselves. And so what I just want to briefly touch on is how we can bridge the 3D and the 2D worlds, because as Susan kind of introduced, I know a lot of the folks here in the room are definitely deep into the 3D space, but in the 2D world where a lot of the job sites are living today, how can we really make those tools connect with one another and leverage all that data? And unfortunately, we won't have time to dig too deep into it, so if you guys have questions, feel free to find me over in the exhibit hall. But I do want to just touch on just a few things here. And the first point I want to make is that there are different tools that are created for different needs on the job site. And now, while the building information modeling tools are very complex, they're very powerful, and they're great for collecting data in the office and in design and into operations, we need a separate set of tools for the guys that are out in the field, for our superintendents and for our project managers. So when we talk about advantages of both, it's important just to recognize that they do need one another. We do need to have tools where we're collecting data both, in a 3D data-rich environment, as well as from the job site, whether that be your tasks, your red lines, your photos, and punch lists from there. So let's take a look at 3D first. Again, this should be a review. Advantages of 3D, first and foremost, it's a very data-rich environment. Any one element in a BIM model can have hundreds, if not thousands, of characteristics, which you can use for analytics. You can determine your clashes early, save a lot of money on the front end as well. You've got virtual walkthroughs and photolistic renderings. And of course, a lot of the emerging tech that we're talking about today, whether we're talking about drones, laser scanning, augmented reality, virtual reality, that's really in this 3D space. And it also connects where it's easily able to generate 2D plan sections and elevations to bring it back, to bring it to the job site and make sure that everyone has the information they need as they're building. But let's take a step back and let's also take a look at 2D here, because 2D, as many of you are aware, is the kind of the realm we've been living in for the last couple decades. When you go out to a job site, you're going to see rolls of paper. And so when we talk about 2D, it's a simple and stable view for both the field to use, as well as it's optimized for mobile. So as Susan mentioned, our CEO found it very effective and was kind of the first to come and say, hey, we should have all this information on our smartphones and on our tablets. It also is very effective for communicating any nuances on the job. Anything from a punch list item just down to a red line or something you need for installation. And it's simple and easy to really get information quickly out of it on the run. You can be anywhere and have access to this information. And of course, it's also important that it's the official record set. A lot of our legal contracts these days still require that the 2D drawings are used. But that connection with 3D is important because there's definitely a place in the industry for both types of systems. And so just in wrapping up here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim, there's a lot of benefits when it comes to getting all this data, right? It's just about how we organize it and how we use it, both, as I said, proactively and retrospectively to make our jobs better. But what we just want to take away from today's session is when you have all this data available, both from the field in 2D, as well as from the models in 3D, you've got this entire history of the project that's never been available at this level before. And you're able to reference that forever and then learn from those data sets. You're also able to compare and trend conditions over time. So if you make a mistake on a healthcare project, that next healthcare project, you can know what you're up against and react accordingly. And then of course the spatial and the mechanical data from the models and from these 2D rich environments are huge whenever they're working in coalition with one another. And then finally, you can locate and manage all of your assets, both in the 3D space as well as collecting information from the equipment in the field. So at this point, I just want to introduce Jim from Collaborative Structures. Jim, if you just want to say a few words, and then we'll open up for some general questions and answers about the big data.
Certainly. Thanks, Josh. So my name is Jim Blair. I'm a partner and senior project manager with Collaborative Structures. We're a mid-sized general contracting firm and construction management firm headquartered out of Cambridge and operating in the ICI, multi-unit residential, adaptive reuse, and food and beverage industry construction markets throughout the province of Ontario and beyond. So when Josh mentions all the benefits of what PlanGrid brings to the table, what it means to me as a contractor and a construction manager is how is that going to make me and my team more efficient? So, because all of this sounds fantastic, but how is this going to save me time, and how is this going to make me more money and make my staff more effective? So as a management team about 18 months ago, we got together, realizing the trends that are taking place in the marketplace, moving more towards a digitized platform. So that said, our document control platforms, our safety platforms, our maintenance and equipment platforms, we're looking to go more of a digitized based and a cloud based. So we started interviewing. We met with several companies, and with a major development for Conestoga College coming up that we started last April, being a fast-track project, $45 million of addition and renovation that needs to be completed in 16 months, we knew that there were going to be multiple changes to the documents throughout the course of this project, whether it be change directive, PCs, SIs, RFIs, etc., or just clarifications that our team is going to need to stay on top of to meet our contractual obligations to the schedule. That said, we're looking for, as I mentioned, the edge that we can get from our competitors to stay efficient and effective while meeting our clients' obligations. So we signed on board with PlanGrid as a trial run with Conestoga College, and within 30 days of implementing it on the project, the efficiencies and returns that we're getting back and feedback that we're getting back from our field staff were bar none. So since then, we've begun to implement this on every new project that we're delivering, simply because of the effectiveness and the communication skills that we're getting back from our field to the office. Not only is it effective means for us to be communicating with our field team and making real-time changes to the documents available to them, it gives the ability for us to hand a tablet to a carpenter, to an apprentice, to a laborer who's going to lay out a masonry wall, who's going to lay out a stud wall, who's going to lay out whatever, and work in real time to any changes that may have applied on the document without having to worry about, is this really the most up-to-date document we're dealing with? So that said, for us, there's no going to the purely paper form of document control. Now, that's not the only benefit we're finding. Is our clients and our design consultants that see us using and working with PlanGrid, they got intrigued. So Conestoga College specifically, being a major institution in the KW region, and having several buildings that are ongoing, we began to explain to them that as this being a living document with all the changes that have happened in the course of a project, plus all the pictures that get logged over the course by the superintendent, by the foreman, not only is it just a contract document, but we're able to implement all shop drawings, all product data, all maintenance material, everything right into this living document. So that at the end of the job, I'm not handing over 45 binders and a 700-page stack of drawings to the client. I'm giving him access to my PlanGrid account for that project, which will continue to stay active, that he can simply just hand over to his facility management team. And from that point forward, it's a live working entity. So not only from the construction side, but from the facility side and from the design side, we're finding efficiencies all over the place, and we're believing that this is going to be the way of the future. And again, not to take away from the 2D versus a 3D. 3D is absolutely essential, and we work with it every day in the design aspect and the interference portion of the project. But when we get down and dirty in the field and actually building with 70 different sub-trades that are on the project that are not working in the 3D realm, we've found that this is by far the way to go. So I don't want to waste a bunch of your time, and Josh hit on most of the points here, but we'd be happy to field any questions.
Yes, I don't know if anyone has any questions, but feel free and yeah.
Hello. Okay, I have a small question. I think you just mentioned that when you're in the field, it's better not to have 3D because people are not used to it, or do you mean it's better if they have access to it?
Yeah, no, so I guess what I want to make sure that the message that's coming across is 3D is definitely, there's a lot of value on every project for 3D. What we're finding is that the 3D model itself, we're still not there quite as an industry yet, whether you're talking about the labor, being able to open it up and move within a 3D space on a mobile device, and the hardware itself, the hardware itself just isn't quite there, where it's able to be done, it's just not effective yet on the job site. So in my experience, there's a lot of value with having the 3D model and having it in the trailer and being able to see, the coordinated model, so to speak. But when you get out on the job site, that's where the trouble is with being able to flip around the model for a superintendent, and that's where something like a 2D environment comes into play, where it's optimized for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
I have a question.
Oh, there you go.
It might
Okay.
be more for Blair. And
Okay.
sorry, you may have touched upon it when you said you're handing documents over to facilities managers after construction. Are your contractors able to make adjustments or log in as-built conditions, red lines on your on plan?
Fluid type of platform, so we're allowed to give certain permissions to whoever we choose on the project. So our prime contractors, for example, are mechanical, electrical, fire
Yeah.
protection, BAS, controls contractors, guys that are very integrated into the operation of the building. And most of the time, the guys that are most important to the continued operation, once we turn the project over, we can give them full access to make amendments and provide their inputs and their own as-built contributions to PlanGrid throughout the course of the project as well. So essentially, yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for your time. You guys were a great audience. Appreciate it.